All right, we are live. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, AFWO family. My name is Drea, and I am one of the administrators here on the Air Force Wingman Outreach Facebook group. And today we are going to be having a special guest with us. But before that, as always, you can reach out to us at this address, Air Force Wingman Outreach at gmail.com is the address you can get to. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any issues that you want to bring to the group anonymously, then you can email this message. We will get it out to the group. And as usual, to our 36.6K populace, we will rally around each other and try to help you resolve the issue. If you don't have email or you don't prefer that, then you can always either post an anonymous question on the page, and then we will rally around like that, or you can go to the top of the page where the group is and go to our moderators and go ahead and find one of us, and we will get to you as soon as we can. Gotcha. All right, so we're kicking off summer today with a special guest on this Monday. All right, y'all may know him infamously. He used to be Diamond One. Now he is just Manny, 100%, all the way through and through. Let's welcome Manny to AFWO Speaks. How you doing, Manny?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, man. What a great introduction. Thank you.
Hey, I like to build it up. I like to give the people a little UFC intro. So.
I hear you. Look, I almost got up and ran around the room there for a minute.
He was like, yeah. No, I want you to feel welcome on this platform.
I am. Believe me, as I shared earlier, I am humble with the request and just fortunate to spend some time with you this evening.
Right on. So please give the membership a background on you. Like what is your story?
So originally from New York, right? Grew up in the Bronx. I will tell you, probably never thought about joining any type of military structure, discipline. In fact, I'm actually the only one in my family, and I'm talking like cousins and all, who's ever been part of a military service. I probably didn't see it. There's some folks from my high school days that probably said that I was going to join the military, or I talked about it, but I could have easily been in the Marines. You know, because there was a guy from my neighborhood who, you know how they do the rap program and they come back to the school. Well, he was gone and he came back, and then he saw me. I saw him in his Marine uniform, and I was like, I got to join the Marines. This cat is clean. And
right.
And I went to see the Marine recruiter, and unfortunately, the Marine recruiter wasn't there. So Air Force recruiter, turned around and asked me why I want to join the Marines, and I said, man, you ever seen their uniform? And he was like, yeah, but let me tell you a word of advice: don't ever join anything because of a uniform. And it opened the conversation, and before you know it, here I was getting ready to leave the city. But I'll tell you the reason why a lot more than that was, New York, just like any big city, you can find a way to get lost in it. And I probably would have drowned or let the city kind of engulf me. And I didn't want that. You sometimes don't realize that there's so much more. And it took a lot. Actually, a good family member who when I told I was joining the Air Force, he said, yeah, maybe it's time for you to get out of here. And no one knew. Like literally, my family didn't know. My mom didn't know. I saw the recruiter. I was of age, and I just said, I gotta go. Actually, my mother didn't even believe me when I told her I was leaving. The MEPS van was downstairs in the projects, and I was like, I gotta go. And she was like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like with this little duffel bag walking towards this van, and yeah, man, it was crazy. It was crazy. So, he's gone now 32 plus years, and the best decision I ever made in leaving that environment, because I know it. Every city environment is the same, and sometimes a change of environment is what matters.
Right on. Well, that is awesome, because, and you said that your mother didn't believe you, and even after you.
I was in the van waving to her, and I was she probably thought I was going on a road trip or something. It was July, so she probably thought it was like part of a camp or something.
She said, he'll be back. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. But I was blessed with an opportunity, and I took every opportunity to do what I had to do. I remember going to take my ASVAB. It was crazy because, I was a pretty good student. But, I still remember the pressure, right? Like, and I have these conversations openly with a lot of folks because there's a lot of pressure on a young man or young woman in that type of environment because they know this is it. Like, I don't want to go back home. And so we as an institution, we put all this pressure on this person unknowingly. And if they pass, oh my God. But then we set them up for more pressure, right? At BMT. So there's this consistent turn for overlapping pressure. And a lot of folks don't really take time to think about what goes on in a young person's mind because they think that, you hear it all the time, right? From everybody. Why you join the Air Force? Oh, I want to travel. Or why you join the military? I want to finish school. Man, the real talk for some of these people in these environments, especially the one I came from, is I need to join something before I die. Or something happens to my life or a family member's life, so they don't know the backstory behind that type of pressure of wanting to get out of something to make something good. A lot of the reason that I joined was because I watched my mom bust her ass for a long time. So I was like, man, I got to get like a steady check that I can hook her up. And I had a job. I was working at a Woolworth, out of all things. If you know what Woolworths are, find the dime stores. But I know that I wasn't doing what I needed to try to assist. And I figured if I joined the military, at the minimum, I could send some money back. I could do my part. And so that becomes a real balance on a lot of people's lives, man. So I was determined. That's how I see it. I was determined to leave the city. And before I knew it, I woke up. I was in San Antonio, and then the journey started.
Yep. The rest is history.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's many a days, Dre, I'll tell you that I sit back sometimes and reflect on where I came from. But what has sustained me through this journey was I used it as fuel to never forget where I came from. You feel me? So I always made it a point to tackle a job because I kept saying, man, I've been through worse. Like, you can't tell me this is hard. You don't know what hard is. And that's the push that I had through almost every opportunity that was open to me.
Right.
So I used it, that, like I said, it was fuel for me to make sure that I wasn't going to go back. And, in basic training, I was frustrated like a crazy person too. I remember having a conversation with one of my trainee teamies, and I think we were doing some mediocrity, painting rocks, some stupid stuff. And I was like, man, I ain't come to the military for this. Like, where's the job? And I didn't realize that was part of the structure, right? That discipline structure. So I was getting frustrated, and I was like, this is some bullshit. Like, I don't need. It was crazy. Crazy.
No, I got you. Yeah.
But
that's what? But it.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying like, so how did that build you? Like, do you think that what you went through in your childhood or even as growing up, really built you to be stronger in your Air Force career?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think that's the start of everyone's resiliency is what they left behind. You got family. We have airmen who come from really great lives, right? My father was in the military. My uncle was you have a lot of good, positive support. But then you got another whole different class of people who come from an environment where they were single mom, single dad. Man, some of these young adults have children already. You have domestic violence. You have sexual assault. You have things that are going on in people's homes that they know this can't be right. So they use the military as an escape hatch, and then they come in, and then unfortunately, sometimes we actually add more to that process, right? A young lady who gets sexually assaulted, or a young man who feels like his job is being threatened. So, man, I can't go back home. I'm just going to kill myself. You don't know.
Yeah.
And those are part of the pressures that I saw around me. And I said, I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot. Let me use that so that I can get through whatever it is I was getting through. But for a long time and many years, I actually never shared any any of the resiliency that I faced, I never shared the adversity piece. I always just said, you could do this, you could do this. And so I had to sell it to myself. And that sometimes is difficult,
And why do you say it was difficult?
Because sometimes you find yourself on a solo train, that ride is empty sometimes. You can get on, it's like getting on a subway and there ain't nobody in the cart. And you want to just start screaming, but somebody gonna walk in the door. That's how it felt. It felt like you whatever you're going through, I'm just gonna do it because this is the way my life was patterned. I'm just gonna tackle it and deal with it, and whatever happens, happens. But you learn through the years that we got too many resources that help you get through that, get through those things. And we really, and I say that from a we perspective as a institution, we don't take advantage of our own medicine. And we have all these resources that are there, but we always think that if I went to see them, then there's got to be something wrong with me because I've been dealing with this all my life. You know what I mean? Like resilience is something that we named for somebody who just dealing with stuff and been able to get through it. But we shortcut ourselves by we almost build it to be something more powerful than what it really is. And at the end of the day, it's really about just talking to somebody about some of the things you're going through. And I saw that happening through the Air Force,
Yeah, and I do think it kind of gives a sense of added pressure, I think, in my opinion. Like the resilience piece, you feel like, and I've been asking my different guests, like, what they think is missing from that, because ultimately, yes, we go through situations and we can deal with it, but there's something in between there that we're not adding. We're not giving people the whole picture. And
I totally agree. And then it's formed as what you just said, right? It's formed like that airman has an attitude. And and I tell you, I was there. I left New York, and a majority of people have heard me say this, but I left what I call the city that never sleeps to Altus Air Force Base, my first duty assignment. And I say the city that shut down at 4:00 in the afternoon. So you already walking in with a battery charge of, man, they can't tell me nothing, so you already have an attitude walking in, but people don't realize that attitude is actually your defense, right? You learn in the military, you learn the whole, the verbs and the synonyms, and you're learning it, but at the same time, you ain't trying to hear nothing nobody got to say, because I got here through my own ambition, through my own, my own personal focus, and it ain't even about that. It's not even about that. I remember a staff sergeant telling me, I was an Airman, A1C. He told me the military don't need you this bad. Like, we got 100,000, we got 300,000 people every day coming in. Like, don't sleep that you that important. And and literally I was like, well, damn.
Hey, you ain't gotta hit me. You ain't gotta cut me deep like that.
Yeah, and because I'll tell you, the second part to that conversation was, you about to go home. And that was like, yo, I want to go home, so that was like a wake-up call to say, man, you better get your act right. And it was a huge opportunity for me to start owning that this wasn't about me. And that kind of helped me. And then, of course, then he literally put me in the honor guard and said, you need some structure, you need some discipline. and that was, truthfully, that's exactly what it was up, because it changed my life. After that, it changed everything about me.
Interesting. Yeah. So he went from saying you about to get put out to being like, okay, you know what? You can go ahead and get some discipline in your life and honor guard, which, I mean,
and so, not to date myself, because y'all already know I'm an old ass, but I'll tell you that the honor guard at that time, as prestigious as it was sometimes used as like a correctional custody piece, right? Like, if they can't save you, nothing will, right? So they send you the honor guard, and it was like, they're gonna teach you some structure, some discipline. You're gonna learn like this.
What was it like when you sent kids off to a private school?
Yeah, or it was like going out to a work camp, like they you got to get it right, or maybe this ain't for you. And they actually, I realized that it was the thing that kept me right, because the discipline was needed, the structure was needed, and I actually challenged myself to learn as much as possible because I wanted to be, the best. And I think at the end, that's really what it comes down to. We sell our airmen sometimes this facade about being the best, and rather than just be the best version of themselves. And we actually lean so hard on them with this facade to tell them what they can be, when we got a lot of airmen in the military who just want to do 4 years. They don't need to have a career focus. Some of them just want to finish school. Some of them just, they want to travel. I've met airmen, and you'll trip on this one, who literally told me, I just wanted to get overseas so I can finalize my career and stay overseas. Like, that was their ticket. So you can't hate on that, right? That's like, at least they were honest. But we sometimes we want people to think that they're like us, like we old school long termers, right? And I'll tell you, when I came in, I was gonna do 4 years and go back home to New York, and 4 years turned into 6 years. Next thing you know, I'm like, damn, I'm at 8 years, and then it's always that conversation, right? You only got 2 more years for 10 years.
I know, right? I know, they just be bridging that. They just bringing it closer together.
They juice it up so that you almost guilted into staying in longer. But a lot of things really also that you're able to find a core of folks that believe in what you're trying to do, and they, you find that inspirational piece that kind of becomes your circle of trust, And I saw it. I remember taking leave for the first time as an airman. I went back to the city, and man, the cast was doing the same thing. It was where I left them is where they were at, and I realized, nah, man, I can't come back to this. So that actually helped me gain some strength on my future. Like, I realized, man, let me just take care of some business. Let me go to school. Let me do the things that I wanted to do, and like you started the conversation, man, things happen, but I truly believe it's the universe, man. It puts you in places, and you don't put it in perspective until you realize, man, but if I would have went the other way, I wonder what my life would have been like. And I'm not big for regrets. I don't live on that note. That's a dark tunnel to walk through.
Dangerous.
Yeah. So I try to just, man, I just see myself as a blessed man with the opportunity. And if somebody provides me that opportunity, and they're gonna get a rock star. They're gonna get all or nothing. And I'd rather provide them all.
Right on. No, I'm with you, and just and just looking at stuff in hindsight now. I mean, you said you went from 6 to 8 to 10, and then double digits, retired now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's crazy. I tell folks now, if I knew what I knew about the world, as it is, I would not probably stay past 20. I mean, because you hear a lot of people say that all the time, man. If I could be 20 years, then I could retire. But I tell you, in 20 years, I didn't feel like my journey was met. Like, there was so much to do, and and then 18 got selected, and I don't know if a lot of folks actually know this, but in 2017, I was going to retire. I was like 2 months out from retiring. And then he called me. He asked me to join the team, and I realized, wow, like, I never set out to be Diamond One. That wasn't even on my radar. I just wanted to be a good senior NCO. And when it happened, it opened a different aperture now for my life, because I realized, man, we got to do some stuff. We got to fix all these things that I saw throughout my career that I kept getting, like Heisman, and now we the top on the seat. So what we gonna do? Like, I still remember those conversations with K Wright about things that were going on in the force, and we always had a reflection on the things that we experienced. And keep in mind, we didn't have social media the way we have it now, so those things became like prominent in our lives to try to fix. And we had the ears, like we could, he used to say, squint with your ears, like, let's listen to our airmen and figure out what their problems are, and let's get after it. And when you do that, you realize, oh my God, we fixing some things that these airmen need. And it wasn't about us. And that's what actually made it fun. We had such a great dynamic team, but we had so much brevity because we were listening to our people. And that's actually what this is supposed to be about, you know? So it became something more than what I expected. But I'll tell you, again, the universe, everything kind of turned out where, we had this opportunity to try to do our part. And now, I hear it all the time. I'm blessed. I get social media connections with a lot of folks, airmen, that reach back to me and just say thanks, for whatever we did. It could be a number of topics, but it's always that we took time to listen to them. And for me, that's what all these positions are about. If we're sitting back trying to feel ourselves, man, we in the wrong business,
So what do you say to like the airmen or the people in the field, right? Because obviously you've held the top position, but I imagine there are some out there that are like, are we being heard? Like, granted, we have social media, right? Yeah. We have social media and the ability to connect a lot faster than what we're used to. But it's kind of like, okay, I have all these things going on, and obviously we're not in those meetings or behind the scenes, or what I'm saying? Like is that, obviously that's not the case, right?
No. Actually, the bridge to a lot of our conversations came from our travels, because most of the time, and it's sad to say it, but I mean we knew it. No different than when we were airmen, right? You can tell your first sergeant, you could tell your commander, you can even put it on. They had idea programs, you name it. We had all types of different platforms that you could vet to, right? But if they don't think it's that important, it ain't gonna get seen. So we used to always ask, top. I remember this as a young first sergeant. If you went to, we used to have these global first sergeant, conferences, and they used to ask every matchcom to solicit questions from their wings to see, what is, have we thought about this, or can we think about moving? It was always a target related question.
Yeah.
And then they would bring all of those, and then they cipher through them. And if it was a subject that nobody wanted to touch, then you ain't have to worry about it. Push the curve, right? Because it's either going to take too much work, or they think because they tried it once, it would be impossible to see it through. So those things were all hearsay, right? Because we were getting the information from other people who had already vetted it from other people.
Right.
So one of the things that we became passionate about was going out and actually talking to those airmen. And that was like unheard of, right? Because it could have been something they tried to push a year ago, and they were so passionate about it that they would say, "Hey, Chief, you got a minute? A couple of years ago, I talked to my command chief, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, that sounds like we could do that." Yeah. Yeah. And then what we would do is we would track down all these open-ended opportunities, and then we go back to the Pentagon, and then we just fight the fight, And you'd be surprised. There's a lot of bureaucracy, of course. You think about DoD as a whole,
right?
But when you're pushing an airman's issue, and it's important to that airman speaks volumes for the many airmen just like that person. So it could be one person at MatchCom X who has this problem. I bet you is tenfold around the command, and probably in a different location, in a geographical location where somebody, was at that base, and they probably stemmed that same question up. So it became such a target for us to hear what they had to say, and then go back and see what we can do. And even if it couldn't be done, we were like, nah, that's not good enough for us, man. Like, tell me why. And we questioned a lot of the things because, at the end of the day, it's just like the operational Air Force. It's easy to say no, right? It's easy to say, man, we got other things that we got to kind of more important. And that just wasn't enough for us, man. We tackled almost everything that was brought to our table. And there were some things that we left on the table, which, at times we go, damn, man, I really wish we could have been able to see that through. But we pass on the hat to the next team and say, hey, man, yeah, y'all charged to own this, and if they take it, cool. If they don't, it is what it is.
No, I got you. That's awesome. So that kind of gave us a look behind the curtain.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt, bro.
Yeah,
I would tell you without a doubt that there's some things sometimes nobody understands. So the 18 and I, we always were vetted with this, right? Man, I don't know how you guys did it, and we were like, man, we just did what we did. Like, I didn't walk in with no machete and threaten anybody. You bring them you bring them the problem, you bring them a solution. And then if you have to, right, you find the right team to work the issue, but then you do the homework so that you ain't looking crazy trying to explain it.
Right.
So that's what we did. And, and having bookends, right, him and I, we saw the force differently, and then we saw it the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, he came from a different structure, a different level, where I saw it from a more, tactical, right? He saw a strategic picture where I was embedded in the operation with squadrons and groups and wings. I can touch on the airman piece and then work that into how we're going to strategically get this in front of the people who make these decisions. And that's the way it's supposed to be done. That's the way we balance, any opportunity to get anything done in the Air Force is about making sure you have all the information, that you have, the problem set, and then find out how can we get this, because there was times when they would say, yeah, we can't do all of this, but you can have this, and we're like, well, that don't make no damn sense. Like, what's stopping us from getting all of it? And then so it's not like we gotta take this back to the blueprints, right? And we'll work and restructure it again, and then we'll just attack it again from a different level. So we were fortunate in that capacity, but we really, people give us a lot of praise, a lot of accolades for our team, but all we did was listen. That's all we did. We just took time to listen to our airmen. And for that, we're forever humbled, because those processes that were probably a struggle in their lives, we just wanted to make it a little easier. Just take the burden off so you can concentrate on the job and what we're asking you to do for the force. Because, look, and you probably experienced this, because I know I did. I go to work and I'm giving 110, 120%, doing everything. And then you get home, you're exhausted. You ain't trying to have or hear anything. And then we it's a front. And we go back and we start all over again, knowing that, man, this sucks.
Right.
Some days just suck. And our roles as senior leaders is to make sure that the day doesn't suck, so that you can get home and give 100%. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that then you can come back to work and then give us what we want. That's all of you. We want the best version of you. I don't need somebody to come in, kicking cans and then fronting like they're running the show.
Yeah.
We got a lot of imposters out there, and that's the sad part about it, is they're sometimes seen creating more monsters, and their attributes aren't really attributes. They're just they're like, they're selfing them. They're making themselves feel good. And then an airman sees that, and because they hold a certain position, they go, man, I guess that's the way it got to be done. And nah, man, you gotta be real and grounded with our airmen. And you hear it. I'll tell you what, and tell me if you've never heard this, right? Never forget where you came from. Never forget. I mean, come on, that's such an easy statement.
Well, yeah. I mean, don't you hear that in the sense of like when you're, when you become an NCO or a senior NCO, don't forget that you were airman. You know what I mean?
Look, we brainwash you to make sure you understand. Hey, man, you are airman once. Don't forget. But what happens to a lot of our folks is they start climbing this tree and they forget to look down, and they don't realize, man, I don't need nothing from you but a hand. Like, help me up the damn tree. But what we end up doing is we trying to find ways to, cut the fingers off.
Yeah.
We look at airmen, we look at each other as a threat. And that is sad, when we are all individuals creating our own energy, right? But we I'll tell you, this was something that really saddened me. It saddened me, because I would hear things like, hey, I knew that guy was going through some stuff, And but you know, man, yo, this is the race. Like if he can't do it, and I actually, senior airman told me that he witnessed this. He had an airman in his unit that was suffering, going through some real world stuff, and one of his peers said, "Hey, man, this guy he's been killing it, but now he's dealing with life. That's just one. That's the one. That's one less person in the line, you know." And can you imagine if you would have just taken that same energy of cutting his throat and trying to, you know, shank him in the back?
Yeah.
How easy it could have been for you to say something like, "Hey, man, what's going on with you?"
Right.
You know. But we are so promotion projected at times that we lose focus, man, and that's not healthy. Not in this environment.
Right. But and that's kind of why conversations like this are very important. Like actually it is why conversations like this are important, because we as leaders or as even as human beings need to feel comfortable in our own skin to be able to have these conversations with each other.
Believe that. You know, Dre, I'll tell you, that's, you know, so I started my business, right? And it was based around that. We have lost a sense of humanity, like doing things for the right reasons and doing it because they need to be done versus what's the gain, right?
Yeah.
I tease folks with that radio station. I've been talking about it for so long that it's like a tattoo, right? WIFM, what's in it for me?
Oh.
A lot of people out there listen to that radio station and,
yeah.
and they forget that, you know, this ain't about you, man. Humanity is about how is it that I build everyone around me. And that's where the service piece comes in. You know, that's actually the service before self. But we drown those words out because we look at, we're the first people we see every day. So, you know, if you like that smile, you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is about me.
Yeah.
And it ain't like that, man. We got to be better than that. We got to be ready to understand that this is about humanity. This is about taking care of people. And our service provides us that opportunity in so many different levels. But we lose focus because we make it about us and our own gains and our own deliveries. And man, I know for a fact I would have never ever been able to have the journey that I had if it wasn't for the many that invested in me. You know, too many people have seen more of me than I've seen in myself.
Right.
And that right there speaks volumes to the caliber of individuals that are out there. I'm blessed because I still, you know, I've lost a lot of folks in my life, but a majority of the folks who actually watch me grow in this journey, they're still around, man. And I made a point to make them proud. For the time that they invested in me, I made a point to make sure that I was going to give back so that they understand that their time wasn't wasted. And, you know, and it actually was balanced to my life, right? Because my mantra is about time. So I've been running that time process, and, you know, I don't waste it. I try not to anyway. But I live on that. Don't count time, make time count. And I that's kind of been my go-to for keeping every conversation alive. Like, man, is this really important? If it's important to you, then let's talk about it because I don't want to waste your time. You know? So that became kind of the energy behind the words. And now look, years later, the name of my business is Making Time Count. So I'm trying to make sure that folks understand the value of life. And if COVID didn't teach you anything, man, you must have been in Bermuda hanging out in some tropical island,
right?
Because we lost a lot. Look, 599,945 people. Come on, man.
Yeah.
If that don't make you value what you got, then that's crazy talk, you know?
And
I lived it every day. Look, my wife is a respiratory therapist. She manages a respiratory department. I not only had to deal with the anxiety of it going around, but I had to deal with the anxiety of it coming to my home. And then that's just one piece of it. Then you add on that she's dealing with death every day, right? And so you gotta take time to treasure what you have because we just don't know. We just don't know.
So how did y'all deal with that? Like, how did y'all deal with that, you know, with her going through that experience and then you being on the receiving end?
Oh my God, girl. Look, so and what a great question. You know, as a first sergeant for as long as I did it, you know, I was blessed, right? But it took its toll on me too. And all I did was compartmentalize it. Like I literally took problems that everybody was having and I put them on a shelf just so I could go home and deal with life, right? My kids, my family, and then start all over again. Because you'll realize this if you haven't realized this. We have a lot more takers than givers, and it's sad to say that, but it's a reality. People want something from you every day, but how many people are actually pouring back into you? And that's how I felt throughout my career, is that I was, especially as a first sergeant,
right?
You constantly are in the gauge. Someone needs something from you. But then, the minute that you're waiting for somebody to say, man, how are you doing today? And then you go, oh my God, somebody just asked me how I'm doing.
Well, you want to add,
crazy, right?
Add them to the wheel, like, hey, man.
No doubt. Like, man, look, let me give you some blood or something.
No, real, what you need, bro.
But you realize that I had to change my circle, my community had to change, and I had to do a lot of cleansing towards this whole COVID thing, because it was hard. I mean, I ain't gonna front. Having my wife in the middle of the battle zone was like me being deployed and getting RPG'd. You don't expect it, but when it's coming, your adrenaline's on fire, and that was kind of the day to day, right? Hey, the questions weren't how you doing. It was like, were you exposed? How many patients did you have? Hey, we've been kind of locked down for a month and change. That conversation became so aggressive, because I wasn't asking about how you were doing. And by the way, you coming home with these stories and I already got, my shelves are full.
Yeah.
Like, how do I make room for those stories? Because now I got to be back in this first sergeant zone in my home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was tough, but we had a lot of opportunities to sit down and just talk about it and work hard through it. Life is, it don't change, right? Corporations, Air Force, man, again, we talking about humanity. So a lot of what I dealt with in my military career was easy to kind of transplant over to what she was doing in her career, because we're service. We givers again.
Right.
But so I had to walk her through that takers and givers mentality. And then just ask her where you at, like where you at consistently. Where's your brain at? Where's your mind at? Because, it only take one slip of whatever to lose focus. And then that's your lifeline on the box. But I think it was probably harder for her. And just like it was for most folks in the medical community, to deal with all that was going on and then to still be able to function at home. She came close to not living here because the need was so, it was like a rush. She had to be there. She had to manage the shop. She had to, and this was a time when people were questioning whether I want to even work and do this job. That's crazy, So there was so much emotions going on that we really had to just breathe and realize, hey man, this is why we're here. This is why we're here. So, but it was tough. It was tough. I ain't gonna front you. It was tough.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, that's a very vulnerable place to be in.
Yeah. It's hard. And then, keep in mind at that time, we just stopped traveling. So I think one of the last trips I went on with General Goldfein was like in May, somewhere around May was the last trip. We actually went back to BMT for their first graduating COVID class, the class and that was probably one of the last trips. But at the same time, look, girl, let me fill you in on all that was going on. My middle son was graduating from grad school. I had all this positive going on in my life, and you can't celebrate none of it because we're dealing with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It was tough, and I'm still dealing with it. My oldest son, who's in the Air Force,
right?
He's stationed up at Creech.
Right.
He just had a baby.
Right.
And I still haven't seen this baby in 3D.
Right.
So we fortunate that we got social media. I could get all the pictures I want, and I can see FaceTime. But ain't nothing like you want to hold this baby.
Right. Exactly.
So we still in that zone where safety measures and and I respect all of that. I want to be able to make sure that baby is safe too.
Sure.
But we still trying to figure out what's
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 on
the after
film and
effects?
what's not.
Yeah.
Yep. I got you.
So all of those things are still part of it, man. But so I want, you know, you, these listeners, these whoever's out there gauging this to understand, man, we just living and trying to get through life. So you can't, you know, my story is my story, and there's so many like that, right?
Right.
I lost about 7, give or take, good family friends with COVID, you know, that passed away.
Right.
Can't grieve, can't see, can't. I knew a first sergeant who lost his mother to COVID and couldn't even be there. Like, couldn't even go to the funeral. I mean, nothing. They couldn't do nothing.
Yep.
So how many of those stories are out there, right?
Oh my goodness.
Let's think about the families who now just became adjutant professors and teachers and had to realign their whole lives because of schools.
Right.
Man, those are stories that are real out there, and we just sometimes get caught up in our lives and we go, man, but this is what I had going on, and this was what happened to me. Look, my transition was not easy because it happened during COVID.
Yeah.
So I get questions like this: "Hey, Chief, man, how's retirement life?" And I go, "Shit, man, I just started." Like, you know, I was in a net. I couldn't get out of it, and so this is another part that I want to speak to when it comes to this resilience channel. I went from this job that gave me such a platform, and I'm talking about communication.
Yeah.
So I said I went from having 3 phones to no calls. You feel me?
Crazy.
So and I shared this recently in one of my forums and one of my you know, when I went out to talk to some teams. The majority of the gifts that I received on my retirement, as great as the thought was, it was alcohol. So now I got to bring you to my place, right? If I was the guy who didn't have the support, if I didn't have the positive and the optimistic views on life, and I received all these gifts, and all of a sudden everything goes black.
Yep.
I was Amy Winehouse, girl. I was sitting in my house during COVID with nothing but alcohol. You know how easy it is for me I could have turned to that for an outlet.
Yep.
And I keep thinking about this.
Right.
Think about how many airmen we have in similar situations that go into a dark place and have it accessible. And then we wonder, then we get that crazy query question, right? Man, he killed himself.
Yeah.
Like how could that happen? He was always so lively and so, man. I lost a good friend to suicide. Michael Morales, as Lieutenant Colonel, retired. This guy was a positive outpost for me.
Right.
And when he took himself out, man, I was crushed. But I couldn't I couldn't vent that because we was in this zone.
Yeah.
So I'm getting online doing these 22 push-ups for suicide and you know, putting that imposter on, you know, have my Yankee hat and I'm pumping out push-ups and I'm turning it off and I go, damn, what is it gonna take, man?
Yeah.
You know, so again, I share that because that's part of my equation now when I talk to people and more so airmen to understand that this is still part of the journey. This ain't your end all.
Sure.
It's fast to get position power. It's fast to understand. Even when we transitioning, girl, the TAP program, as great as it is more up to take care of you by resume writing than to figure out the emotional state of what you're going through when you're transitioning out of the Air Force. And a guy like me who, plenty of people like me who spent over 30 years, this is all we know.
Right.
So I was blessed to have some folks that reached out to me. I reached out. I started feeling, look, this is how dark it got. I was like, I can't believe nobody's calling me. This is some crazy shit. All this time, I mean, literally, I became this aggressive person, right? I helped so many people, and ain't nobody reaching out to me. And then one day I woke up and realized, what the hell are you talking about? Man, everybody dealing with life, just like you. So what I did was now I picked up the phone and I started calling people, and the stories that were hitting me back, oh my goodness, girl. Hey, Chief, it's so good to hear from you. Thank you so much for reaching out.
Yep.
My brother died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there was so much emotional, and they're thinking that, man, this guy just called me because he was thinking about me, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm so happy I called this dude because he's now bringing a little bit of reality back to my own life.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yep.
so that's what I'm trying to tell folks now is that, man, you know, we only have this one life, and if you ain't doing nothing positive with it to change or uplift or secure an opportunity for somebody else, man, we just wasted time, girl.
True story. And I do think, yes, everybody's dealing with life, but I also think the flip side is how we deal with life and still manage to try to help other people that are dealing with life. Like that is
Yeah,
like you
that's hard.
know, like I don't know how many times I've, said, like, I'm no doctor. I don't know what this is. Like I don't you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm sending, I'm telling my folks, hey, this is what you should do, but I literally have no experience whatsoever.
And that's because we shortchange ourselves. Look, I'm going to be straight up and tell you that towards the end of my career, I realized that I had held on to so many emotions, so many feelings. And so I became the guy that I was trying to share with Airmen about, right? So I would tell Airmen, hey, man, you're dealing with some stuff. Why don't you go seek behavioral health? Why don't you go talk to somebody? And for years, Drea, I didn't talk to nobody. You know, I still remember I came back from a deployment and my father had passed away. And I went to New York and we took care of everything. I was, I'm the structured guy, right? So I did it all, right? Funeral, you name it. We did it all. I got back to the base and I had an airman with me that I was taking to see a therapist. See a therapist. And I remember the therapist pulled me over and she says, "Hey, Shirt, man, you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm good." She goes, so what's going on? Talk to me. How's life? I said, "I'm good. I came back from this deployment. My father passed away, so I just came back from funeral." And I was just like, it was
Just
a checklist.
letting it roll off.
Just letting it go, girl. And she stopped and she goes, "What? What'd you just say? Your father passed away?" And I said, "Yeah, I just came back from the funeral and we just buried him." And, and to me, it was nothing other than something else. You know what I'm saying? And she says, "Why don't you come into the office for a minute?" And when I sat down and she says, "Have you grieved?" And girl, let me tell you something. I realized I hadn't. I had not had any emotional release. And I just started crying in that office. And because I was like, man, my father just died. Like it didn't hit me because everything was so patterned out in my life. And it's hard to become that person, with all the years that you're doing a certain kind of job, right? If you're dealing with people, you're always going to embed yourself in their situations. It's just the natural cause of life. We are, as givers, we want to serve others. You know what I'm saying? So when they come to you, you want to do all you can to take care of them. And in doing that, you end up taxing yourself out. You don't even know it. And so fast forward, I'm getting ready to retire and I was exhausted, but I can never tell nobody. Everybody saw me when I landed and we was like, hoo.
Yeah.
Chief, oh my God. Hey man, what's going on? Talk to me. And there was some times, people don't know this, but in my position at the Pentagon, in that office, I was the oversight for a lot of our deaths. So anytime somebody was going to get buried at Arlington or something, I was always present, right, to be there, deal with the families and such. And after a while, man, that starts to grip you up. That family focus, because you got to put yourself in their shoes and think of the loss that they're experiencing. And I couldn't fake that. Like you can't, right? It goes back to being like human. You got to connect with those individuals so that they have a better understanding that you actually care. And let me add on the fact that I represent the United States Air Force, right? So there's this persona, this person that you have to be, then all the extras that come with who you are. And you got to try to find that balance. And a lot of people ain't good at that, and I'm not saying that I was, because I failed. I failed by not seeking some type of help, somebody to talk to, mental health. I didn't see myself reaching that level because I didn't think it was necessary. Because for so many years, I've been doing this. This is what I do.
So you thought it wasn't necessary because you were like, well, it's gotten me this far. You've had success. You know what I mean?
You got it. Look, bro, our success train sometimes needs to make local stops, right? But we are on this joint trying to get express. I'm trying to get up the block, man. I'm trying to get past that block. So what works, what we think works for us ain't really working. You know, it's just you're good at the camouflage. You're just better with face paint. And for a lot of years, I just ate it up and I just got breathe. But I didn't realize those outbursts I was having with my kids, or a small trigger of an incident would give me a flashback of something else that happened, and I would try to tie it in. I was dealing with so much that I didn't even realize that I needed to let it out, let it go. And it's hard for a lot of folks to get to that place, but I was there. And it wasn't towards the end that getting closer when I realized, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? And then reality hit me, man. I just shared this openly. Team 18 got together, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. Some folks were in town, and we all got together to have dinner. And so we're talking. There was a day I came back from a trip. So this is real world talk. Y'all getting exposure now.
Okay.
We came back from a trip, and I was sitting in the office, and it was myself and 18, another chief there in the office, Chief Rogers, Chris Rogers, and we were just having a conversation about just the trip and some other stuff going on. At that time, I was dealing with some policy stuff that we were trying to push, but I just felt that it was being hindered. Like it was an obstacle that we couldn't get by, and it was pissing me off.
Yeah.
You realize that in this conversation with these two these chiefs, I was like, man, I just don't understand why and I fell apart.
Wow.
And the chief was looking at me like, bro, it's not that important. Like,
right.
But it wasn't the issue.
Yeah.
It was that my body was telling me, take a knee. And I was not listening. And that's why I went to that place. And so we were at dinner, and I brought it up because we in therapy. This is all full therapy now. And I said, man, y'all don't even remember that day and they were like, they started laughing. They were like, yo, we were trying to figure out what was going on with you, man. I was like, that's what I'm trying to tell you, man. I was having a mental breakdown, and I didn't even know it because I was exhausted from all these trips. We spent almost 300 days traveling. That's unheard of.
That's bananas.
For the cycle of the life that we had in that position, we were always on the road. And, with all those great things that we were seeing and listening to and doing, I still had a family at home, and I still got to connect with them. And I still got to, I would get off a trip and then it'd be like, okay, so where were we?
Yeah.
And you can't live like that. And
pause. You can't put the pause button on that.
Nah, man, not on life, right? Because now you ain't even part of it no more. So that's what I'm trying to tell you and the rest of this community, whoever has an opportunity. I mean, it could be whoever. Man, take care of yourself. Like, this is real stuff. And you don't even know you're going through stuff until it'll creep up on you. And I never put that on anyone. Like, I never want anyone to experience that, because it can take you down a dark hole, and it ain't gonna be Alice on the bottom waiting for you. It's gonna be some vice out there that's gonna, think you're gonna take you away from every problem in the world. And worst scenario, it'll take you to a place where you go, you know what? Maybe I'm not needed. Maybe nobody's gonna miss me. You know what I'm saying? And that's where we really are over the top. So, I'm a fan of just letting folks know, man, tell somebody something. Don't hold anything to yourself, because we all are dealing with life. And, the best output in life always comes to a part where you got to realize your where you fit into this thing. I know where I came from, and I know what I am now because of it, but I don't look at it as a negative. Like, I actually embrace where I grew up, how I grew up, good, bad, or indifferent. It made me who I am. and that has now transcended into the person that I am. So I spent many years trying to create more monsters, right? I was in the lab just building them up,
just cooking it,
doing them up, man. And they come in different flavors, right? You either get the monsters that ravage the village and take everybody out, or you get the ones that actually been listening and understand compassion, apathy, empathy, all those things that really matter when it comes to taking care of our people. Because when you climb the ladder, man, it's dangerous, but you got to have somebody holding that ladder too. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But I'm just wondering, you had all of that going on, and it wasn't until you got on the other side that you kind of realized that, hey, I should have reached out. Like, is that where you at? And so are you feeling that need? Are you feeling that need now?
To reach out?
Yes. Feeling your need to reach out and get what you need, having your support system around.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So this wasn't a front, right? I actually sought out the therapy. I actually had to go talk to somebody.
Good.
And I needed to. I mean, literally, I was at, it may not have been the brink for a lot of people, but my experiences in over 3 decades finally caught up to me.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't put it to anyone to wait as long as I did. I just was accustomed to adversity throughout my life. Right. So I just found ways to cope with it, right? But even those coping mechanisms, man, they're failures unless you understand the value of how you want to move forward. And I had to better myself. This was like the journey was coming to an end, but I realized that I still had to be the first person I look at, right? And if I wasn't happy with myself, then how could I entertain trying to be the person that I wanted to be? I needed more. I needed to be a little bit more balanced in myself. So I shut down on a lot of negativity in my life because it's easy to get caught up into that, where you go, you know what, that we make excuses for so many people and so many reasons, Dre. We say things like, that's just the way they are, oh man, that person, you don't know where they came from. And you're absolutely right, you don't. But is it necessary to need them in your life, right? Is it necessary to have them fold into your circle if they ain't bringing nothing positive to it? And that was my cleansing. My personal cleansing became, all right, I'm going to attach myself to people who are going to continue to build me up, because I remembered that was kind of the beginning stance of my career, right? That's that sergeant who said, we don't need you that bad. You may need to start thinking about other people in your life. As I got older, I started realizing, man, if I'm the smartest person at this table, I need new friends. Right. So I needed to really encourage myself, and it needed to start with me. So I can't, because I felt fake for so long, girl. I was pushing out a message that just wasn't true because I wasn't taking advantage of the things I was telling people to do, right? So it goes back to that old walk the talk.
Right.
I had to do that. It was my journey. And now that I'm on it, I got to make sure that whatever I'm investing into people, it's got to be the same investment that I'm giving myself. So I don't find room for plagiarism, and when it comes to life, I can't be that person, man. And for a long time, as much as I did everything not to be that person, I was the person. Like, I was doing it to myself. I gave everybody the greatest advice in the world, but I wasn't taking advantage.
You wasn't taking it. Yeah.
Taking advantage of my own. And that's usually the way it is. That's our own personal downfall, right? And that's what gets you to that place where you start feeling isolated, you feel alone. You say things like, ain't nobody ever going to understand.
Right.
So we silly to ourselves that only we know what we're going through when there's so many people dealing with it, So I think, I'm a fan of always saying, without rain, nothing grows, right? You gotta learn how to embrace the storms in your life. So that's where I'm at now. I've embraced them. I'm learning every day, right? I won't say that I got this. I wake up every day with just this. Oh my God, I got air in my lungs. Like, what am I gonna do today that's gonna make me and those around me better? I gotta keep that positive and that optimism alive, because it starts with me. I can't sell it. It starts with me. So I'm continuing to try to make as much time that I have left on this earth, I gotta do my part to make it count. And opportunities like this, man, talking with you earlier, and we're gonna have to stay connected because I want to know the rest of the story. Word. But it's things like this, right, that bring us an opportunity to really get to know each other.
Definitely.
I'm a fan of life now, so from a different perspective.
No, that is great, and and every person I've had on here that's revealed the fulfillment, the purpose is what the amazing part of it is, and we are really proud of you, for going through those things, and obviously I'm sure your family is very happy to have you in full 100%, Manny,
Oh yeah, I hear it every day.
No,
even though I want to go like this, God, that what the?
They were like, you better put that knife hand away right now.
I'm living my best life right now, man. I'm blessed. I get up every day, and like I said, girl, how not to want to thrive in this, regardless of the environment, right? So this COVID thing is kind of coming to a fold, right? We kind of everybody kind of got their vaccinations on, and we now kind of getting back. But man, if you ain't learned anything from this and start treasuring the opportunities that you had during, with all that we had going on, man, you need to get the Sleepy Hollow road. Because this was a test. And God was testing us. You want to see where you're living, how you're living, and then make sure you change how your life needs to be. I just truly believe that, you said it best, man. Everything happens for a reason. But this universe is tricky that way. And sometimes we need a little in your face to bring you back to what it really is supposed to be about. And so I think a lot of folks are still struggling it, right? We still got road rage. We still got unfortunate killings, with young adults. Guns are still the population pool. We still are dealing with issues, but there's an overcast based on everything that has happened since. And I think that's something we got to start weeding out and start talking about. Think about it. Look, in the year of COVID, out of all the things, we had Black Lives Matter. We had more rallies. We had George Floyd. We had so much unrest going on in the world. And yet people were finding ways to break all those chains and get to a good place. So, I believe that we are better than what a lot of people think we are. Right down the road from me, the freaking Capitol, that was unheard of.
Right. And
all of that, I think, and people came up with every excuse in the book, man. They were saying, well, racism, and look, this is our world. You crazy if you don't think racism is thriving somewhere. It exists, but we control us. We only know what we know, and your part in that builds these dynamics that we have in life in our society. So it has to start with us. We have to be better for ourselves, and then let me get a Dre over here. Now together we're gonna have to find somebody else, and that's how we build the community. That understands. So until we fully embrace that, we're gonna keep hearing about all this turmoil going on in life, man. But I can't do nothing about any of that. And that's just something I used to tell the Airmen, in my units, and even after the fact, is you can only control what you can control. If you get wrapped around so much stuff going on in the world and use that as an excuse, man, you're gonna be wasting a lot of valuable time. So
emotion and energy and
there's an investment that comes with all of those things, and that's taxing. That stuff will wear you down. So kind of get back to these personal competencies. Just learn you first. What makes you work right? What makes you feel right? How you sleep right? All those things, they'll attribute to how you want to live in life.
I'm hopeful. That's why I'm it's almost, to the point of trying to get back to the basics.
Yeah, girl.
It's just sleeping, eating, doing things that are healthy, putting good things in your body.
There you go. I'm telling you, we waste a lot of valuable sometimes eye power, right? Because you know what we'll do? We'll see a magazine in the supermarket and be like, man, I never thought about that.
Right, be in the grocery line, like,
you know what works, like, for you. Like, some people don't need 8 hours of sleep, right? You just go to sleep early enough to get the rest that's needed, right? If you're a tracker and you want to track your sleep and your patterns, there's opportunity for that. Invest in that. But if you're not doing any personal investment on yourself, then how can you be dependent to invest in so many other people? And I did that. I had such a I had, my scope of responsibility was so wide, but I was failing myself by not taking my own advice and knowing and doing what I knew I needed to do. And then I still kept going. Like, the race wasn't on. It was like continuous. So it starts with you, and you got to find a way to invest in yourself, find out what's broken, fix it, get your clock right. And then you go out there and then you say, hey, then you tell your story. I think that's another thing that we're missing, is opportunity to share these personal stories of your good, bad, and indifferences in life. Because we think, again, this is my story and nobody understands it. And man, you're crazy. There's multiple stories. There's people that tell me stories. I go, damn. Like, you go, oh my God. How are you still here?
Exactly. We have like it's the most, and I think we talked about this pre-interview, where we have the most, like, almost strongest, like, people like, not even resiliency wise, but just mentally, physically, and emotionally, with a lot of the stuff that you deal with day to day, where you can literally just sleep it off and then go on the next day like it's nothing. And man, it's.
So I told you time is everything for me. So I tell people, okay, so when you gonna start? Like, it's time for action. Like, when you gonna start doing the things you talked about wanting to do to better yourself? Because we'll push it off. It's just like. It's like for the folks that said I came into the military to go to school, and then they ain't never take a class. So I when are you gonna start on this thing called life? Like, don't sleep on it, because you just don't know.
You don't
know. So I'd rather take an opportunity to keep looking forward, man. Keep moving forward. Keep I lost the keys to the DeLorean a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? I can't find my way back. I can't, even if I wanted to go back, I don't want to go back.
True story. It's like, if you could change anything, it's almost like, what does it matter?
Yeah. This is the journey, man. Wherever you're at is where you're supposed to be. So, you could talk about the fork in the road, and you can talk about, man, if I would have chosen the blue pill. You could be there all day trying to figure out, and it'll confuse you because you start outweighing the things that you're dealing with now and trying to validate the things that you didn't do. And man, that's what you're doing. You wasted a lot of valuable time, girl.
It's true story.
So I'd rather just move forward and take what I got, and not live life like I'm at the Bellagio, Because that's what people do. They think they rolling dice with life, and they don't understand.
You ain't trying to hit them sevens?
Yeah, girl, look, man. Look, how many times you gonna play?
You run out of money until the house is on the table, until the card.
That's right. I wait for everybody to look good. And I start following the good bets.
I know that's right. I'll be like, look, he's hot. I'm gonna be on there with this cat.
Girl, you're crazy, man. But again, I'm so humbled with the request and the opportunity to share some space with you, man. I always tell people, don't adopt to the energy in the room, right? You got to influence the energy, and that's what you do in these conversations. So just keep living your purpose, man.
No doubt. Appreciate that. And we at AFWO, Air Force Wingman Outreach, we appreciate you coming on and being just as raw and real. I'm telling you, that's why I'm like, people ain't watching now, but when they watch the playback of this joint, it's gonna be like, yo, we got so much information. But
I can only hope. And this is you guys are gonna get the feedback. But if there's something that someone wanted to know, or just some more insight, for whatever, just patch them my way, girl. I'd rather be here now to be able to share my journey and the good, like I said, the lymphax that came with it. and make somebody else's path a little lighter, a lot faster, maybe a little better. But you know, they gotta be able to at least do their part, and that's the reach back. So I can't go out there. Look, this ain't the X-Men. I can't put on a helmet and try to find everybody, right? But if they find that they're in this place that they're struggling with, and they're trying to, you know, figure it all out, man, just leverage me for an ear and let me know how I can assist with that.
No doubt, no doubt. Manny said that he is willing to be a resource for us or for anyone if they need it, and we appreciate it. And that's the purpose of this platform, is to bring the people out here to the forefront that have experienced these things, that feel these things, that know these things. Like, we're all humans. We're all in a society that we're trying to really make better.
Yeah, you said it, girl. You said, look, every morning, right? That's how it works, man. You're supposed to have a new opportunity. It's a new opportunity to become a happier version of yourself, right? So I always tell people, someday is today. Like, don't be trying to wait. Don't try to figure this thing out, man. Just, if you know what's going on in your life and you own it, then what are you gonna do about it? Like, don't wait, because waiting sometimes ain't the most healthiest thing in the world.
Yeah, and you know what? You never know what's going to happen. Like, you know, you don't know if your life is going tomorrow, tonight, whatever. But living in your purpose, you know.
Yeah, that's it, girl. That's it. You said it best. You know, that's what it's really about, man. Finding your purpose and then living and seeing it through. Because there's, you know, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who will continue to come up with excuses about that, right? They'll say, "Hey, I couldn't because," you know, I don't even got time for that no more, man. You know, you could if you really want to. So you know, but you gotta start with you. You gotta change your way in order to try to filter somebody else's future. Because we all been there. And I know there is no one person I know ain't been struggling with life. That's the challenge of life, is that, you know, how we deal with it really speaks volumes for how we're gonna get over that obstacle, that hump. You know, a lot of folks just don't know how to, and that's where we are supposed to be able to help them, not own the problems, but assist them so that they can assist themselves in that resolution, because that's the biggest part of it. I look at it even from my personal my personal time. If I would have been able to reach out as frequently as I was offered the opportunity to, oh man, I would not have been dealing with none of the struggles that I had, because it would have been a vent. And that's why I was so pro on the first sergeant community, because they're usually the ones to get everything. You know, you as an additional duty, understand, you're gonna see, you're gonna touch, all your senses are gonna come across most of the time on a negative note. And you know, that takes its toll after a while. So that's why I embrace the communities of first sergeant councils, to say, hey man, this is why these councils exist. You can't be trying to cut nobody to try to be, you know, the one, when all of y'all dealing with the same problems. Everybody got some kind of issue going on. So just you know, I'm open for that. Just I'm like I talked about that tree, I want to be the hand, you know.
I know. So we are at the conclusion of this interview.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know you gave us a lot of good stuff, but do you have anything for our membership specifically that you want to let them know? You know, a message of encouragement or anything?
Yeah. I'll say that if you're a fan of this source, or this foundation, a platform that's out here now for folks to understand what wingman outreach really means, this is exactly what I've been trying to share. Reach out to somebody, man. Reach out to the folks around you. You know your circle better than most, and you know, never count on the fact that, you know, you're alone. I think that's the place where a lot of people find themselves. To include me. Right. Don't get to that place, because you ain't ever alone. There's a lot of people been dealing with a lot of things. May not be in the same severity of the things going on in your life, but at the end of the day, man, they can listen and they can hear you and they can talk to you about the things going on. And if anything, you'll understand that you're not alone. You're not alone. So, you know, keep your resilience up. And again, so it's a great title word, but at the end of the day, it's really about what you want to give to yourself, so that you can continue to give to others. Because again, this is what it's really about, you know, making time count, girl.
Right on. And you know what? And we got Red in the comments talk about preach.
Yeah, Red can talk some stories. If you don't know his story, man, he been through some stuff, and I hated to hear about it after the fact. But you know, he can tell you exactly the flow of traffic sometimes that comes with this arena. So you know, just kind of own your space in the arena. You know, another thing, if I could say, is judgment is dangerous. You can't walk in trying to figure out people's lives if you ain't never been in their shoes. You know, and I think we do that a lot. We try to tell people what to do, how to think, but they don't understand where they came from. And unless you've been in those, unless you own a DSW or some kind of shoe store, you ain't gonna fit in nobody's shoes. Like,
I'm gonna use that.
You know what I'm saying? You got to understand, everybody been walking in their path, and that journey for them is not your journey. So you know, don't judge people by what's going on in their lives. Get to know them and understand them, and then figure it out, and then realize that, again, they're human. Life is gonna have a way of throwing all kinds of curveballs at them, but you know, the process of elimination is that eventually you're gonna hit one. You know, you're gonna hit one, and the one we want to hit is the one that we want to throw. You know, so I think I can't thank you enough, girl, for the opportunity. And you know, freelance, man, just holler and let me know what I can do to continue to support this forum.
Nah, we appreciate it. We appreciate the raw energy and the reality and all that stuff. And so my piece for the membership is always is that we this platform is not about us. It's about you. It's about everybody. It's a collective. It's a collective effort, and it's only thing to make us better. You know, and the willing to be human and raw and show all these experiences is just and share these experiences is because you know, we've lived them, we've been there, we survived them, and now we're yep, and now we're looking to, you know, use those same energies to benefit the others that are around us, to share these lessons learned collectively. So you know, I just appreciate the people that tune in, the guests that come on, really being supportive of this platform, and ultimately the goal is just to help everybody become better human beings, treat each other with respect, and also, you know, just acknowledge that, hey, sometimes we're in a tough space, you know.
There you go, girl. That's the beauty of it. So you hit it all. You didn't even have to do this interview. You just said what you said. That was money right there.
No, trust me. They don't want to hear me talking, but I definitely thank you, Manny, for coming on.
Yes,
we appreciate it. Air Force Wingman Outreach @gmail.com is the email that you guys can reach us out to. And if you have any questions for Manny, then or comments, we already got the comments going. So please, you know, Manny, whenever you get a chance, go back to the comments and see what the people are saying,
no doubt.
And respond. So that way they can be connected with you and kind of know where your thoughts are at.
Nah, too easy. That's probably the best part about it. Just having the opportunity to engage.
Right on.
And I'll tell you again, thank you, Red, the whole team. Just you guys keep doing what you're doing, man. You may not realize it, but you're making a difference.
Right on. I appreciate that. We are making a difference. It's not just you. Collectively, we are making a difference.
There you go.
Yep. So thank you, Air Force Women Outreach, for watching. This will be on YouTube, and this will be on Facebook Live, and we are out of here. Salud.